In the village of Mbali, nestled between red clay hills and rivers that hummed with ancestral memory, a young woman named Talia stirred from uneasy sleep. Dreams had haunted her. Dreams of gold coins dripping blood and of shadowy figures speaking in tongues she did not understand. Talia was the daughter of a well-known family, the Odumas, whose wealth stretched across the land like the roots of the baobab tree. Their estate stood like a monument of power on a hilltop, its wide verandas filled with laughter and secrets. But beneath the surface of elegance, there was something rotten. Now, villagers, the Odumas, were generous and upright. They donated to the temple, built schools, and threw grand festivals. But Talia knew the truth. Her father, Chief Nduka, had grown rich through silent deals with foreign men, by selling land that wasn't his to sell, by silencing dissenters with coin or sword. Talia, with her braided crown and sunlit eyes, kept her silence, but it ate her from the inside. One evening, while hiding from another of her father's lectures about duty and legacy, Talia stumbled upon an old wooden panel behind a dusty bookshelf. Inside was a small leather pouch crumbling with age. Inside it, a letter in faded ink. It was from her grandfather, Babu Eze, a man said to have disappeared into the jungle years ago, abandoning the family name. The letter was addressed to her. "If you read this, child of my blood, then you have begun to question. Good. The fortune they cherish is cursed. Come find me." Talia's heart pounded. That night, as the moon rose like an old eye, she packed a satchel, dried meats, water, her grandmother's amulet, and walked out through the servants' trail. She didn't know where Babu Eze was, only that he had spoken of a sacred grove beyond the Mamba River. She did not look back. Crossing the Mamba River was no easy task. Its waters swirled with crocodiles and hidden spirits, and the bridge had long been devoured by time. Talia found a fisherman named Iroko, who agreed to ferry her across, if she could answer his riddle. What eats no food, drinks no water, yet grows and devours everything in its path? He asked. Talia, remembering her dreams, whispered, "Greed." Iroko chuckled, smiled. "Then you may pass, daughter of truth." Deeper into the forest, Talia met a talking hyena with silver eyes. His name was Koba, and he had once been a greedy merchant, cursed to roam the wilds. He offered to guide her in exchange for a story, true and from her heart. Talia told him of her family's lies. Of gold, built on betrayal. "Good," Koba said. "Stories are the true currency of the spirit world." That night, they came upon a drumming circle, deep in the trees. Spirits danced to rhythms only the soul could hear. An old woman, Mama Nyoka, beckoned Talia. "Every air must beat the drum of echoes to awaken their legacy," she said. Talia struck the drum once. Visions swirled. Her grandfather in chains, her father burying truth, and the earth crying beneath heavy gold. "Your journey has only begun," Mama Nyoka whispered. To her surprise, the next morning, Talia encountered her cousin Amari on the trail. Amari had been like a sister once. Brave, clever, and always loyal, or so Talia believed. "I couldn't let you go alone," Amari said, offering dried fruit. "I read the second letter Babu left behind. I knew you'd run." Talia embraced her, grateful for the company. As they journeyed together, strange omens appeared. A snake shed its skin and left it coiled at their feet. A hawk circled above but never landed. Koba warned them, "Not all who smile walk with clean hearts." Talia dismissed it. This was Amari, her kin. One night, they camped in the Whispering Hollow, a sacred place where voices from the past rose with the mist. As Talia slept, Amari crept to the edge of the firelight, whispering into a carved gourd. She poured out red sand, the kind used in binding charms, and murmured, "She must never reach the grove. The legacy must stay with us." A figure stepped from the shadows. Chief Nduka's envoy. Talia awoke, unable to speak, her limbs heavy with charm dust. Amari stood above her, tears in her eyes. "You don't understand," she whispered. "We built this life together. If you undo it, if you give the land away, we lose everything." But Talia, despite the spell, summoned a fire spirit with the flick of her grandmother's amulet. The spirit's flames banished the dust and burned the envoy's shadow into the trees. Amari fled, and Talia wept, not for her cousin, but for the innocence she had lost. Word of the betrayal reached the spirit elders of the grove. As Talia approached their sacred court, a circle of ancient trees with eyes in their bark, they summoned her cousin. Amari was dragged in by root-twined spirits. Her eyes wide with fear, she refused to meet Talia's gaze. "Justice must be spoken by the one betrayed," said the elder tree, known as Mzee Moyo. Talia stepped forward. "She sought to bind me in silence, to steal the truth from generations unborn." "And what shall be her fate?" asked Mzee Moyo. Talia hesitated. "Let her speak the truth forever." With that, the spirits marked Amari's tongue with the sigil of the grove. She would speak only truth until her last breath, cursed to live among those who knew her as betrayer and warned by her very voice. Amari wept, not for herself, but for the legacy she had almost destroyed. One, Talia's survival and her awakening in the grove spread across the land like wildfire. The villagers whispered her name with reverence, and the winds carried her story home. But Chief Nduka heard it too. He paced the great hall of the Oduma estate, fists clenched and brow furrowed. His daughter, his heir, was unraveling everything he had built. Talia returned to Mbali not in secret but in full sight. Her journey had stripped away fear. She was not the same girl who had run away. Talia entered the estates through the grand gates, now guarded by men who had once called her princess. They parted at her gaze. She found her father seated in the great room, flanked by ministers and loyalists. He rose slowly, disbelief hardening into anger. "You defy your blood," he hissed. "You shame your name." Talia stood tall. "I honor it. You dishonored it with greed, with blood-soaked gold and stolen lands." Gasps filled the room, her words echoed like thunder. Talia unrolled the scroll Babu Ez had given her, the seal of the elders glowing with ancient fire. It declared her the rightful heir, not of wealth but of restoration. She placed it on the table before Nduka. "Your legacy ends here. The land will be returned. The spirits have judged." Nduka laughed hollow and trembling. You're just a girl with stories." But then the doors blew open, the wind howled with voices, ancestral spirits filled the room. Mama Nyoka, Mzee Moyo, and even Koba in his hyena form stepped through the veil. Nduka tried to flee, but the spirits rooted him to the floor. Visions of his deeds played before the court. His secret deals, his bribery, the silencing of his brother Babu A's. The villagers, summoned by the spirits, watched in shock and fury. Babu A's entered last, leaning on his staff. "Brother," he said, "you chose power over peace. Now you must face the truth." The spirits stripped Nduka of his title. The Oduma crest cracked down the middle. He was sentenced to exile, no longer to rule, but to walk the same earth he had sold piece by piece. Talia did not look away. "Your silence will echo louder than your commands ever did." Her father said nothing, only lowered his head as the spirits led him into the fading light. The morning after Nduka's exile, Talia stood atop the same hill where her family's estate overlooked the village of Mbali. She held the scroll of legacy, the seal of the elders still warm in her hands. Villagers gathered below, uncertain and hopeful. "I am not here to rule," she said, voice clear. "I am here to restore. We begin again, together." Talia walked through the Oduma estate, now quiet and stripped of its former power. Each room told a tale of exploitation, rooms built by overworked hands, chambers furnished by bribes. She ordered the estate be opened to the people, repurposed as a community hall, a healing space. The golden Oduma crest was melted and reshaped into a sun-shaped medallion, its rays extending outward, not inward. This Babu Eze Mama Nyoka guiding her, Talia visited the lands her father had seized. One by one, she met with the elders of each village, apologizing, listening, and planting new treaties into the earth. She revived sacred farming practices, reintroduced rituals of thanks for the land, and invited children to plant the first seeds. "Let the next harvest bear truth," she said. Talia disbanded the corrupted ministers and formed the People's Council, a circle of chosen elders, farmers, healers, and storytellers. Decisions were made in public under the great Iroko tree. Even Kolba the hyena was given a seat, his voice raspy but wise. "A beast who once hoarded gold can smell it in others." Amari returned, her tongue still branded with the sigil of truth. She lived quietly at the edge of Mbali, helping the wounded, avoiding Talia's gaze. But one day, Talia visited her. "If you are to live among us, you must heal with us. Come, stand in the circle." Tears fell freely as Amari stepped forward, and for the first time, her words of apology rang clean and pure. The wind carried away the last signs of the old Oduma rule, banners burned, contracts buried. In their place, rose schools of spirit lore, open marketplaces, and temples where drummers called to the ancestors every morning. Talia sat beneath the tree of fireflies each night, recording the names of every family wronged, and every child born since her return. "Let none be forgotten," she whispered. As the seasons turned and the first crops sprouted from the reclaimed soil, Talia declared a celebration, a festival not of riches, but of rebirth. It would be called the Festival of the New Sun, held on the day the tree of fireflies glowed its brightest. Preparations began at dawn. Children painted their faces with ochre and ash, representing the past and the future. Elders sewed robes from reclaimed cloth dyed with the colors of the earth, brown for roots, green for growth, and gold for balance. Drummers from every corner of the land arrived, bringing rhythms passed down through blood and breath. The great Iroko tree was adorned with ancestral masks, each one a tribute to those who had guided the people through darkness. That night, the village gathered in the fields. Tables were filled not with opulence, but with food grown by shared hands: yams, maize, mangoes, and river fish. Koba danced with the children, his hyena laugh blending with the flutes. Even Amari sang, her voice finally free of shame. Babu Ize and Mama Nyoka sat beside Talia, watching as the villagers lit candles made from beeswax and clay, forming spirals of light across the earth. As the sun set, the tree of fireflies shimmered. Thousands of glowing insects rose into the air, illuminating the grove like a sky full of stars brought low. To close the celebration, a ceremonial flame was lit from the grove's sacred fire. Each villager stepped forward, whispering a vow and tossing herbs into the blaze. When it was Talia's turn, she held a single golden leaf and said, "I vow to remember, I vow to grow, I vow to give." She cast the leaf into the flame, and a warm wind swept through the gathering, an ancestral blessing. The villagers chanted her name, not as ruler, but as keeper, not as queen, but as kin. That night, long after the fires dimmed and the village slept, Talia returned alone to the tree of fireflies. She sat at its base, her fingers pressed to the warm soil. A deep hum rose from the ground. Her eyes fluttered closed, and a vision came. The land of Mbali, generations from now, lush and teeming with life, but shadowed by a dark fog creeping in from distant lands. She saw strangers cutting down sacred trees, and the rivers whispering warnings too faint to be heard. But then she saw children, her descendants, standing strong in a circle of light, holding hands with spirits, resisting the fog. One child stepped forward, eyes bright with flame, and whispered, "Prepare them! They will need your story." Talia awoke with the dawn, heart racing. She knew now her journey was not just about healing the past, but guarding the future. She rose and whispered to the tree, "Then I will write, I will teach, I will warn." Days after the festival, Talia wandered through the old halls of the ancestral house, drawn to a locked chamber her grandfather had kept private. The key had been lost, until now. Guided by a whisper from the tree of fireflies, she found it buried beneath a stone marked with the Oduma crest. The chamber inside was lined with scrolls, carvings, and maps. At the center stood a pedestal with a sealed box made of ebony and gold. Upon it lay a note in her grandfather's hand. "To she who carries the true inheritance, this is your last guide." Inside the box, Talia found a weathered journal, pages brimming with sketches, prayers, and coded teachings. Her grandfather had written not of wealth but of prophecy, a warning about a coming age when greed would rise again in new forms, cloaked in progress. The final page read, "If you found this, then you are ready. The legacy was never silver. It was never land. It is the story. It is your voice. Pass it on." Talia wept. She had fled the legacy of corruption, only to find her way to its true form, one that could not be stolen, bought, or buried. Inspired by her grandfather's message, Talia set out to build something lasting, a place where stories could live and grow. She called it the School of Roots and Stars. It began with a single circle of stones beneath the tree of fireflies. Children gathered each morning to learn from elders, spirit keepers, and the land itself. They learned how to read the winds, heal with herbs, tell stories with rhythm and fire. Talia taught them the story of the inheritance, how power could heal or harm, and how to walk with balance. The school taught not only wisdom, but compassion, not only skill, but purpose. Even travelers from distant villages came to sit in the circle. The people of Mbali began sending messengers out to surrounding lands, inviting all to bring stories and songs. Within seasons, the School of Roots and Stars grew into a living archive of memory and hope, a garden of minds planted by a woman who had once only wished to run. In the heart of the ancestral grove, beneath the wide arms of the tree of fireflies, Babu Eze stood with arms outstretched. The grove had tested her, through spirits, trials, and truth, but she had passed. This land, he said, placing her hand upon the soil, was always meant for you. Not the coin, not the false glory, but the legacy of balance. He handed her a scroll sealed with the sign of the elders. Inside it declared Talia the rightful keeper of the family's inheritance, not to spend or hoard, but to restore. Talia looked out over the hills, the wind carrying her name to the stars. I accept. The end. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, and put on your notification bell for upcoming videos.